as for the main event, really is obviously the main thing we want to talk about in that. And I really don't know if lightning can strike twice and stuff. I hope it does, but I think I think Whyte maybe is going to learn his lesson and stuff. Obviously, he was probably winning the fight before he got knocked out. Really just kind of overreached with that shot. I know Povetkin had been trying to throw that same punch that a couple of times during the fight, and then obviously he landed it with great effect and stuff. But I just like to think that Whyte would probably try and, he's probably learned his lesson for that fight. He'd probably try and keep it at distance. Just use his size, just use his length, if it comes in close, just use his weight, lie on top of him, and that. I could see Whyte maybe kind of eking out a boring decision here, actually. There is absolutely no point in him trying to go out here and try and even the score by winning by knockout. He's got a world title fight potentially coming at some point if it ever happens. So he's got to try and protect that. Get knocked out again isn't going to help him, obviously. And if he does get knocked out, I mean, it's one of my favourite sayings, but this is another classic crossroads fight for both guys. Povetkin, if he loses, he goes home, probably never gets another chance. Whyte might get recycled again at some point, but you'd be thinking that if he loses this fight, that it's probably done for him, or he's have to try and work himself back up. I want to think about it a wee bit longer, but I think Whyte will probably win it this time. But win it on points. As I say, if he just keeps it basic and keeps it savvy, I could see him just winning it on points, stuff up. But Povetkin obviously is going to have to be respected at all times, because if it's one thing he's got the power, he's got the left hook. And if it's a left hook to the body, to the chin, or an uppercut up, he can land that shot, and Whyte's just going to, we've seen it all before. But saying that, I was wrong the first time. I'll probably be wrong this time and stuff, but I think Whyte will probably do it this time.
Yeah, Ozzy, I think that Whyte's been promising the KO, but I don't see it for a second. I'm not saying he won't KO Povetkin, but he's going to come in and absolutely stink the place out. I think there's so much riding on the line. He's just going to run like a prime Henry Akin one day, jab and grab, just to get through this, get the win by all costs, and move on as best as he possibly can.
I disagree. I think Whyte will look to knock him out. I think he has a point to prove. I don't think Dillian Whyte can afford a laboured points win against Povetkin. I think he needs to go in there and make a statement. Let's have it right. He was well on top in the fight, and I think, the round before Povetkin got that stoppage, he looked completely done, to be honest. And another big thing for Povetkin as well is he's battled COVID. I mean, he's old as it is anyway. You do wonder how much if that has still, got those lasting effects on him as well. I mean, Whyte's been, the only time we see Dillian Whyte at the moment is from a settee in Portugal on these Sky shows. So I have no idea what sort of shape he's in. He's been sparring that Eric Pfeiffer. I know that's why he's on this undercard. Pfeiffer's been out there as one of his main sparring partners. Look, Povetkin's dangerous, of course, in this fight, but I think Whyte will look to basically I think he'll drop Povetkin again. I think he'll look to take advantage this time. I'd be surprised. Like I said, I didn't see it coming last time. I said Povetkin was more than live, actually. No, I think I'd tip Povetkin to win, I think, from memory. I'll need to go back and check that. But this time round, I'm not so sure. After seeing, during the fight, it was, Whyte was well on top, and then Povetkin pulled, a perfect punch. Perfect. Not lucky, not one of these, random shots, as what Sky will have you told you. It was punch perfect. Brilliant shot. I just think Whyte will have too much for him this time round. And for what Andy said, like if Whyte doesn't win, it's game over for him. No way. Look at Derek Chisora. He's headlining another pay-per-view card, and he's lost 10 fights. So Sky had no shame with this, and Whyte will be wheeled out probably to fight Derek Chisora, even if he gets beat.
Yeah, I'm talking about world title fights, though, mate. To be honest with you, I agree with you, because he's been brought in, not brought in, but he's been propping up pay-per-view cards and stuff, and Eddie's got his commitments and stuff. He's just not got the stars for it and that. But yeah, I take your point. In the day, who's it? Parker. There you go. I mean, yeah. So there is option. If Whyte loses this fight, rematches with Chisora and Parker are obviously on the table for him as well.
Yeah. What'll be interesting is if the fight goes into the second half of the fight, because we've seen Whyte fatigue before badly in fights against Chisora, Parker. I know Povetkin's not got those. He's certainly not got the legs he once had, but he still carries that power. So that will be interesting if it does go, into the second half of the fight. Just a quick one on the undercard. This is not a pay-per-view card, in my opinion. The headline fight is what they're describing as pay-per-view, and they've just propped it up with a couple of good fights in Cheeseman and Metcalf and Congo McKinson. That is what should be on a Sky Saturday Night Fight Night. 2 great fights there, evenly matched. Instead, they're just shoved on to prop up pay-per-view cards. Fabio Wardley's been matched really well throughout his career, and Eric Molina's another one. They should have been looking, that should have been like a Dubois opponent, and Eric Molina. Doesn't really pose a threat, but has a bit of a name. Wardley will stop him and will knock him out. Interested to see Eric Pfeiffer because, from what he was supposedly going to be in with Dubois. I mean, he's fighting Nick Webb, which says it all really, doesn't he? Nick Webb got banged out off Dave Allen, which need I say anymore? And then a complete random one out of the blue, Yusuf Kamari against Kane Baker. I think Matchroom gave Baker that opportunity, didn't he? Because he beat, was it one of Bellew's kids on one of these undercards in Peterborough, I think, a little while ago. So I'm not sure that. And Campbell Hatton doesn't have an opponent. So again, it's not something that I'll be paying for, of course. I have other methods that I'll be able to watch this. Rob will vouch for that as well. But yeah, it's another poor pay-per-view card. Like I say, I'll happily praise some of the fights, particularly, the 2 domestic ones in Cheeseman and Congo fights, but that doesn't make it pay-per-view worthy, in my opinion. And pay-per-view now is on the name, not on the fight. So we have pay-per-view names, not pay-per-view fights. So Chisora, in Sky's eyes, is a pay-per-view fighter, wrongfully. Dillian Whyte is a pay-per-view fighter. Joshua, no problem, pay-per-view fighter. And that's ultimately what it is. And we'll never see, unless Dillian Whyte gets, in fact, and like I say, if Dillian Whyte gets beat, his next fight will probably be on pay-per-view as well. And they'll put Josh Warrington against that guy who blasted him out. That'll be on pay-per-view as well because they're going to struggle, for headline names, as Andy said.
That's the thing as well, mate, is it's again testament as to how weak his stable is. He's got no stars, and I know he's getting credit for bringing Katie Taylor through, for birth to to where she is now as being champion. You got Coley, Callum Smith, for start to finish. I forget who else at the minute and stuff, but. With all that said, it hasn't really made these people into pay-per-view stars as such. I mean, Katie Taylor's fight with the whole women card that ended up getting put out for free air, Sky Sports, YouTube and stuff like that. So I know he's got his American venture. I know he's got his tie with Canelo and stuff like that. So maybe he's got his eye on the ball over there and that. But in terms of the British scene, British names covering pay-per-view shows, it is not strong enough. And it'd be like all you can do is really put a name on it, or a couple of names and stack the card, and somehow that passes for pay-per-view. It's just not good enough.
Well, and it's the same with the Chisora Parker show as well. People were bumming over that, saying, "Oh, what a card!" It's garbage. It's not pay-per-view, but people see Derek Chisora, Joseph Parker, Dimitri Bivol, Chris Eubank Jr. Like I said, they could be in against fucking pigs, but because they've got a name, people buzz over it. I mean, we can get onto that for, on another show about the Eubank Jr. opponent and Bivol fighting a British champion. But again, as I say, it's all about the names and not about the quality of fights. And this is just an embarrassment, but it will do numbers because of the story behind it of Whyte getting banged out off Povetkin. And until that changes, the quality of show will never change. It will never change. I mean, what will be interesting is when, if Hearn does leave Sky, which is the big talk, and he's going to go with DAZN full time, are DAZN just going to plough money into it? What they're going to do? Because you can't charge a pay-per-view on DAZN, can you? So what they're going to do? Are they going to fund like Joshua fights, Dillian Whyte? What's it?
Now, that'd be the model, wouldn't it? That'd have to be the model. It'd be sub. But then you pay for the pay-per-view ones.
I think so. Yeah.
So like when Box Nation did Box Nation Box Office, didn't they?
Yeah.
But that's difficult, for a new channel coming into the market. If DAZN goes straight away into pay-per-view, they're already trying to entice people into subscribe and then going, oh, but our better fights, you've got to pay additional to what it is, because it's not going to stay at £2. If it stayed at £2 forever and then, they charge the pay-per-view fights, people will go, well, it's usually £2. I'll pay 10 times the amount because it's a bigger fight. But the subscription's going to go up to what, 10, 15 quid a month probably, the more stuff they pick up. And then you've got your pay-per-views on top. It's going to be really interesting, really, really interesting. And I think Hearn's going there. And Hearn is reliant on his name, I think, to take people to watch it. Because he'll lose all that Sky platform, Sky Sports News, advertising in between shows. It's going to be a complete change for him. And as I say, will we see all these fights on pay-per-view or not? It's going to be difficult for them.
Interesting times. We will get into this in more depth in future. I think I'll be very surprised if the Hearns cut all ties with Sky, to be honest with you. Matty, what I was going to say to you was, going off the back of one of Ozzy's points there, actually, I thought that Whyte would stink the place out, but Ozzy's right. Obviously, putting aside allegations of a lucky punch and all this type of bollocks, Whyte was doing really well in the fight. He was outboxing Povetkin, dropped him twice. For all intents and purposes, he looked like he was about to bang Povetkin out. It was a one-sided fight, and it was just a matter of time as far as I was concerned. Before that left uppercut from the gods came out and knocked him out. So Whyte would have justification in thinking, I can hurt this guy, I can beat him up, I'm just going to do the same as I did last time, apart from the whole getting knocked spark out thing.
I think that Whyte is a little bit on the arrogant side of things, and I think that I think that he lacks the discipline to fight 12 rounds against somebody who really knows what they're doing and is always dangerous. If he truly in his head feels like he was well on his way to winning that, and it was just pure luck why he's out of there, I reckon he'll probably lose again. Because that was a pretty boxing move that Povetkin pulled off to drop that punch, man. You don't land that punch unless you really know you're boxing. It was a beautiful, beautiful shot set up perfectly. And Povetkin has a lot of different tools, man. He is old, so that makes it so that, you never, if you can go 12, that's an interesting question, but man, if Dillian Whyte is not taking this fight seriously and he's up his own ass about his performance the last time, he's going to be facing a repeat of what happened last time around.
Rob, Declan McCarthy says Whyte can't box for 12 rounds against Povetkin. Surely, I mean, we're looking at Povetkin, obviously, with the glasses that he's 40-odd years old. He's past his best. He's had corona and all that. That's the only reason why we're sort of doubting him. I mean, am I wrong in saying here, prime Povetkin against Whyte? There's no, there's no competition for me as far as I'm concerned. Povetkin knocks him out.
Yeah, I mean, I had a sneaky feeling for Povetkin, but this time it's in Gibraltar, so I'm waiting for Adam Smith to say... remember, of course, is it going to be a repeat of Povetkin detonating a bomb on Dillian Whyte's chin in Eddie Hearn's back garden? That bomb, of course, in no way connected to the one the IRA tried to plant here before the SAS shot him in the back, perpetuating years and years of violence in Northern Ireland.
I knew you were coming up with that one. The massacre on the rock. The massacre on the rock. Jesus.
Will there be another massacre on the rock? This is the thing. I think Povetkin knows he can hurt him. And if I was Povetkin or in Povetkin's corner, I'd be encouraging him to go out and ring that one off Dillian Whyte's head early. The same shot that he tried the last time. And even if he doesn't floor him or knock him out, have him thinking about it and doubting himself a little bit, because that was a brutal knockout. So that's going to be in the back of his mind. Will he be cautious? I don't know. As much stick as I give Dillian Whyte, by the way, I do like him as a guy. I think he's made, I said before, referenced it tons of time. He's made so much money for a fella who had fuck all amateur background. He's made himself a star. He threw the tables. You know what I mean? He hyped himself up. He made IFL. We had built IFL along the way. His personality. So from that point of view, he deserves his slice of the pie. And I actually think he's better than we give him credit for, but he's still a long way off the top two. And even if he wins this fight, where the fuck does he go? Rematch with Derek Chisora 3, because the two boys are tied up with all the belts at stake for another 2 years. Is he going to fight Deontay Wilder? he looks like he's fighting Andy Ruiz Jr., doesn't he? So he's kind of frozen out a little bit in the top end of the heavyweight spectrum. The dog's back in there actually as a tribute to Dillian Whyte's ring entrance where he does the how, where he sounds like a dog that's all hopped up on steroids. So I think if Povetkin could get to him early, it could be the same result. But I'd fancy Whyte has to be the favourite because of the reasons you said.
Whyte has to be the favourite. They're both going to be cycling away out there. Any fans, Ben, possibly? Are we thinking, Eddie said, we're talking about the vaccination programme and whatnot. Are we anticipating fans to be present here, Ben, in the stadium?
I'm sure there was some matchroom press release that went out about tickets or something, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
On the fight, I've not got a Dillian Whyte prediction wrong since the Joshua fight, and even when you guys have all picked against him, I've picked for him, except for the last fight, and I still picked the last fight correctly as well. I thought he would lose to Povetkin, but you know what? In that last fight, and I looked at Povetkin, and he didn't look the same Povetkin that I watched fight live in Saudi Arabia against Michael Hunter. And yeah, I really don't like. Like we mentioned the COVID thing, Ozzy mentioned that. He was in hospital with COVID as well. It wasn't just he had COVID or he had COVID twice or whatever. He was hospitalized with it. So, you know, someone in the chat said you'd hope that if he was hospitalized with it, or if it had an effect on him, his team would not put him in the ring or let him fight. But this is boxing, you know.
Plus he's Russian as well. They fucking used to put him in fighting and bare knuckle fights against mobsters and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Andy, is that we don't know what sort of like long COVID and all these things that are coming out. It's an emerging thing. The doctors don't really know everything about it. And even in the UK, we've only got a few sort of hospitals and clinics where they've got actual dedicated long COVID teams and things like that, where they're actually assessing what the long-term damage can be. So in Russia, I don't know what the state of play is with that. They're probably doing even less than we are, or maybe they are. Maybe they're doing more. I don't know, but I really don't think, based on that last performance or how Povetkin looked before the stoppage, that he will do it. I think Dillian will win. I don't think Dillian can win on points, though, or I think it's unlikely that he wins on points. Like you all mentioned, as the longer it goes, even if we take COVID into it, the longer it goes, it plays more into Povetkin's hands because he's got that experience, and Whyte gasses really badly. I can't see his stamina having improved. You saw what happened with Parker, etc. So I do think Dillian will stop him, and I think that'll be it for Povetkin unless something big comes along in Russia. But I really like the two domestic fights, Congo versus McKinson. Big fan of Congo, and I think he will win that fight, and he can go on to do a lot. I think Metcalf Cheeseman should also be a fun fight to watch. I'm not really sure who wins. I'd probably lean towards Metcalf, but yeah, looking forward to both of those. And just to echo Aussie sentiments, it's not pay-per-view, and we shouldn't be having to pay for these sorts of things or extra money for these sorts of things. It's ridiculous. Also, Eddie is leaving Sky. That's happening. And I know you said you want to talk about it later, Steve, but Sky are going to end up coming up with a headman and then making an amalgamation of the domestic promoters, and that's what it's going to be. It's probably not going to be MTK now, thanks to Panorama, but it could have been MTK repackaged as ESPN UK, sorry, Top Rank UK, I mean, or you're going to have someone like Kali Sauerland. Who else have you got? You've got Siesta. You've got anyone who's got some kind of charisma will be the front man, and then you're going to have various promoters working together to make the cards, I believe.